You are not failing because you lack opportunities. You are failing because when you open your mouth, people stop listening. And here's the brutal truth most will never tell you. The problem isn't what you're saying. It's that you've been trained to speak like a victim begging for validation instead of a sovereign being stating reality. The average person uses words like artillery, loud, constant, desperate to make impact. They over-explain. They justify. They fill every silence with nervous noise, hoping something will finally make others respect them. It never works. Because the people who command respect, the ones Marcus Aurelius called the upright, understand something you were never taught. Words are not tools of persuasion. They're instruments of revelation. They don't make people take you seriously. They reveal that you already take yourself seriously. Today, you're learning 5 sentences. Not clever comebacks. Not manipulation tactics. 5 phrases that restructure how every person in your life perceives your value. I call this linguistic gravity, the ability to make people lean in, pay attention, and respect your boundaries without you ever raising your voice or forcing compliance. If you walk away from this video and continue speaking like you have been, you will remain where you are. Overlooked. Underestimated. Treated like someone whose words are optional background noise. But if you internalize what I'm about to show you, 6 months from now you won't recognize the way people respond to you. Let's begin. Sentence 1. I need to think about that. The foolish man has an opinion ready for everything. Someone asks him a question, makes a proposal, challenges his view, and words pour out instantly. Unfiltered. Unreflective. He believes this makes him appear smart, decisive, engaged. He's wrong. What he actually signals is that he hasn't thought about anything deeply enough to know what he doesn't know. He's a jukebox. Push a button, get a song. No consciousness required. The Stoic does something that makes weak people deeply uncomfortable. When presented with something substantial, he pauses. And he says, I need to think about that. Watch what happens in the room when you say this. Silence. Not awkward silence. Respectful silence. Because you've just done something rare. You valued truth over performance. You demonstrated what Epictetus called the discipline of assent, refusing to let external pressure rush your internal judgment. Here's the psychology. When you respond instantly to everything, you train people to treat your words as reflexive, not reflective. Cheap. Disposable. But when you create space between stimulus and response, what Viktor Frankl identified as the gap where freedom lies, you signal that your conclusions have weight because they emerge from actual thought. Let me tell you about 2 men in a business meeting. Both successful. Both experienced. A proposal hits the table. The first man immediately launches into analysis. He talks about market conditions, past experiences, potential concerns. He speaks for 4 minutes straight. Everyone nods politely. No one writes anything down. The second man listens completely. When asked his view, he says, "This has implications I need to consider. Give me until tomorrow." The next day, he delivers 3 sentences. Precise. Considered. The room goes silent. Someone asks, "Can you send that in writing?" What's the difference? The first man offered reaction. The second offered response. Reaction is cheap, anyone can do it. Response is valuable because it costs something: time, thought, the courage to not perform on demand. Here's how you apply this. The next time someone asks for your opinion, your approval, your decision on anything that matters, feel the urge to fill the silence. Feel that desperate need to prove you're smart, engaged, decisive. That feeling? That's your ego trying to protect you from appearing inadequate. Ignore it. Instead, breathe. And say, I need to think about that. Then actually do it. Return with a response that's been filtered through reflection instead of reaction. Watch how the quality of respect you receive transforms. The transformation, people stop treating you like a vending machine they can extract immediate responses from. They start treating you like a well they draw wisdom from. Wells require patience. Vending machines just require coins. Sentence 2. That doesn't work for me. Now we enter dangerous territory. Because the average person has been socially engineered to believe that having boundaries makes them difficult, unreasonable, selfish. So when something doesn't serve them, when a request violates their priorities, when an expectation crosses their limits, they say yes anyway. Then they resent the person who asked. They complain to others. They feel used. But whose fault is that? Seneca wrote, "No person is free who is not master of himself." You cannot be master of yourself if every request from another person becomes a command you must obey to avoid social discomfort. The Stoic understands what I call the sovereignty statement, a clear, calm assertion of incompatibility that requires no justification, produces no guilt, and invites no negotiation. That doesn't work for me. Not, "I'm so sorry, I'd love to, but I'm really swamped, and I have this thing, and maybe if circumstances were different, perhaps we could." Just, "That doesn't work for me." Here's what makes this sentence powerful. It's complete. It makes no truth claims about the request being bad. It doesn't attack the asker. It simply states a reality. This thing and my priorities are incompatible, and leaves no gap for manipulation. The weak man fears this sentence. He thinks it will cost him relationships, opportunities, love. But here's what he doesn't understand. Relationships where you cannot say no are not relationships. They're hostage situations. Imagine two scenarios. A colleague asks you to cover their shift for the third time this month. The foolish man says, "Ugh, I really can't. I'm so tired, I have plans, but I mean, if you really need me to, I guess I could try to figure something out." What did he just do? He signaled his boundary as negotiable. He invited pressure. He guaranteed this request will come again. The wise man says, "That doesn't work for me." Silence. The colleague nods. Asks someone else. Relationship unchanged. Boundary established. Here's the application. Identify one area where you consistently violate your own boundaries to please others. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's energy. Maybe it's values. The next time that boundary is tested, don't explain. Don't justify. Don't apologize for having needs. Say, "That doesn't work for me." Then stop talking. Let the silence do the work. Resist every urge to fill it with justification. The transformation you'll experience is cellular. Because for the first time, you'll discover that stating your reality doesn't end relationships with healthy people. It only ends exploitation by toxic ones. And that's not loss. That's liberation. Sentence 3, I was wrong. This is where boys are separated from men. Where ego meets evolution. Where most people fail completely. The average person will defend a position long after evidence has proven it false. Why? Because they've confused being right with being valuable. They think admitting error is admitting worthlessness. So they double down, make excuses, blame circumstances, anything to avoid those 3 words. The Stoic knows something different. Something Marcus Aurelius understood when he wrote, "If anyone can refute me, show me I'm making a mistake or looking at things from the wrong perspective, I'll gladly change." It's the truth I'm after, and the truth never harmed anyone. Truth over ego. Always. I was wrong. This sentence is not weakness. It's dominance. But not dominance over others, dominance over the part of yourself that would rather be comfortable than correct. It's what I call the sovereign confession, the ability to update your position without updating your identity. Here's the psychology most miss. When you refuse to admit error, you don't appear strong. You appear fragile. Because strength is demonstrated by what you can withstand, and if you can't withstand being incorrect, you're demonstrating extraordinary fragility. But when you can say, "I was wrong," with the same calm you'd say, "It's Tuesday," you reveal something terrifying to insecure people. You are not your positions. Your identity is not threatened by being incorrect because your value doesn't derive from being infallible. Let me paint you a picture. 2 leaders. Both made a bad call on a project strategy. The first, when confronted with evidence of the mistake, gets defensive. Well, at the time, with the information we had, he explains. contextualizes, makes sure everyone knows it was reasonable given the circumstances. His team nods. They also note, this is a person who can't acknowledge reality when it's uncomfortable. They begin filtering what information they bring him. The second leader listens to the evidence. Gunks says, I was wrong. Here's what we're changing. 3 minutes. Done. His team leaves that room with something more valuable than a perfect leader. They leave with a leader who cares more about solving problems than protecting his ego. They bring him harder truths. The quality of information he receives increases. His decisions improve. Same mistake. Completely different trajectory. Here's your application. This week, you will be wrong about something. Small or large. You'll feel the urge to explain it away. To provide context that makes it not really being wrong. To shift blame. Stop. Feel that urge. That's your ego having a panic attack. Breathe through it. Then say, I was wrong. Add nothing. Watch what happens. Watch the respect in the room increase. Watch the defensiveness in others decrease. Watch yourself become someone safe to tell the truth to. The transformation, you stop spending energy defending the past. You start investing it in improving the future. And people notice. Sentence 4, tell me more. We've entered the realm of what I call strategic silence architecture, the understanding that power in conversation belongs to the person asking questions, not the person performing answers. The foolish man believes conversations are stages. Opportunities to demonstrate how much he knows, how interesting he is, how valuable his perspective. So he talks, and talks, and talks. He mistakes airtime for influence. Meanwhile, the person across from him is thinking, when will this end? The Stoic understands what Epictetus meant when he said, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. But it's deeper than that. Listening is not passive. It's the most active form of influence that exists. When you say, tell me more, you do 3 things simultaneously. First, you gather intelligence. Every word someone speaks reveals their values, priorities, fears, and desires. The more they talk, the more you understand the landscape of their inner world. Second, you create depth. Humans are reciprocal creatures. When you give someone the rare gift of being genuinely heard, they unconsciously want to return the favor. Not immediately, but the debt registers. Third, you maintain control. Because the person asking questions controls the direction. The person answering is following a path they didn't choose. Bruce Lee said, the usefulness of a cup is in its emptiness. The same applies to conversations. Your value is not in how much you pour out. It's in how much space you create for truth to emerge. Here's a scenario. You're in a negotiation. The other party makes an offer. It's not quite right, but you're not sure why. The amateur immediately responds with a counteroffer. Back and forth. Positional bargaining. Tension. The master says, tell me more about how you arrived at that. Then goes silent. The other person talks. They reveal their constraints, their assumptions, their real priorities versus their stated ones. After 3 minutes, you understand exactly where the deal can be made. You didn't give away your position. You didn't argue. You just created space and listened. Here's your application. In every conversation this week, speak 30% less than you normally do. When someone states a position, instead of agreeing or disagreeing, say, tell me more. Then actually listen, not to respond, to understand. Notice what happens. Notice how much people reveal when they're not met with resistance or performance. Notice how they lean in. Notice how they later describe you as really smart, even though you barely spoke. The transformation. Conversations stop being performances you're anxious about. They become intelligence-gathering operations you're curious about. And curiosity is effortless. Performance is exhausting. Sentence 5, I've decided. We arrive at the end. The sentence that separates those who experience life from those who are experienced by life. The average person lives in permanent maybe. I'm thinking about. I might. I'm considering. We'll see. They float. They defer. They wait for perfect certainty that never comes. Then they wonder why nothing changes and no one takes them seriously. You cannot respect someone who won't commit to their own decisions. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, faced 1,000 decisions daily. Any could have been deferred, studied longer, consulted further. But he understood the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Indecision is a decision. It's a decision to let circumstances decide for you. I've decided. These two words are a declaration of agency. They announce, I have moved from consideration to commitment. The time for debate has ended. The time for action has begun. This doesn't mean deciding recklessly. The Stoic gathers information, reflects, considers. But then, and this is critical, he commits. Not because he has perfect information, because perfect information doesn't exist. He commits because motion creates feedback, and feedback creates adaptation. Here's what people don't tell you about decision-making. The quality of the decision matters less than the quality of your commitment to it. A good decision executed with full commitment beats a perfect decision executed with hesitant half measures. Two people want to change careers. Both uncertain. Both scared. The first says, I'm exploring options. We'll see what happens. 6 months later, they're still exploring. Still seeing. Still stuck. The second says, I've decided to transition into X field. I'm starting this Monday. They face obstacles. Course correct. Adapt. 6 months later, they're not where they expected. They're somewhere better because motion revealed options that thinking never could. Same starting point. One person decided. One person considered. The decider is transformed. The considerer is unchanged. Here's the application. You have a decision you've been postponing. You know what it is. You've been waiting for certainty, permission, the perfect moment. Stop waiting. Set a date 48 hours from now. Gather what information you reasonably can. Then decide. Not perfectly. Completely. Say to yourself and at least one other person, I've decided. Then move. The transformation, you reclaim agency over your life. Because here's the secret, confidence doesn't create decisions. Decisions create confidence. Every time you decide and move, you prove to yourself you can handle uncertainty. That proof compounds, becomes identity. Let me bring this home. 5 sentences. Not magic spells. Not manipulation tactics. Instruments of self-respect that, when used consistently, force the world to respect what you've already claimed for yourself. I need to think about that. You value truth over performance. That doesn't work for me. You have boundaries that aren't negotiable. I was wrong. You prioritize growth over ego. Tell me more. You seek understanding over validation. I've decided. You claim agency over circumstances. Here's what I need you to understand. The person who can speak these sentences is not the person you are right now. Not yet. Because right now, you're still carrying the conditioning that taught you to explain, justify, people please, and defer. But that person is who you're becoming. Every time you pause instead of react, you become them. Every time you state a boundary without apologizing, you become them. Every time you admit error without crumbling, you become them. Every time you listen instead of perform, you become them. Every time you commit instead of defer, you become them. Epictetus said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. You would be someone taken seriously, someone respected, someone who speaks and others lean in. So do what you have to do. Start today. Choose one sentence. Use it once. Feel the discomfort. Do it anyway. Then tomorrow, use it again. 6 months from now, someone will ask you, how did you become so confident? So respected? So clear? And you'll smile. Because you'll know it wasn't confidence that got you there. It was commitment to speaking like the person you decided to become before the world agreed you were them. The choice is binary. You can continue speaking like someone who hopes to be taken seriously someday, Or you can start speaking like someone who takes themselves seriously today. One path leads where you've already been. The other leads somewhere you've never imagined. Choose now.